and welcome to episode 36 of Gar Borras' Time Machine. Today is going to be our final episode for 2022. We'll be returning in January of 2023 with a bunch of fun new episodes, and today we're going to be talking about one of Gar's all-time favorite holiday movies, Scrooged. And you told me, I think, about a year ago when we'd done our first Christmas special, which was for It's a Wonderful Life, you had mentioned this along with a couple other holiday classics that you really love. So I made a point that we were going to do an episode on it this year, and that's why we're doing this. So let's start right off with you, Gar. Why does this film mean so much to you?
Well, just like everyone else, when the movie came out, it was successful, but it wasn't like hugely successful.
Yeah.
And I just kind of really, didn't pay that much attention to it
at the time.
Yeah. And then, winds up later on, I wound up catching it, on video. I probably wound up going to a video store like a Blockbuster's, and there was a bunch of independent family-owned video stores that used to be around all over the place back in the 80s. And so, you would go to the video store and pick out a movie, and that was a real popular thing that people did back in the 80s.
Oh, sure.
Getting the popcorn and watching a couple of videos. The video stores were always packed, and so I'm sure it was one of those times that I went in and picked out the movie to watch it, and it just turned out to be so much more than I expected.
Yeah.
And those are the movies that I enjoy the most. The movies that I have low expectations.
Yeah.
And they far exceed whatever I expected. Office Space is another one of those movies that far exceeded what I expected, and so Scrooged was it had that kind of effect on me, and especially that last scene.
Oh, sure.
At the end of the movie, where he's mostly ad-libbing, but it is so heartfelt and so true, and even holds to today.
Oh, sure.
What he was saying, at the end of the movie, and it really struck a chord.
Yeah, Gar, and you just brought up a great topic, which I wanted to ask you. Speaking about Blockbuster Video and the video stores, that's a thing I used to do. Everybody used to do back in the day, as well as you. Did you get a chance to check out the Blockbuster documentary that's on Netflix that I told you about?
It's definitely, going to happen like real soon.
We'll leave it right there. Yeah.
So much want to see that.
Because that is definitely, as you and I were discussing about you watching that, down the line, that was definitely something people did back in the day. And I watched it myself. I urge people to go on Netflix and check it out. It's called The Last Blockbuster Store. And it really kind of, I think I forgot about for a while. Every Friday and Saturday, there was a time in my life when, I guess very much like you, I would go, and that's what I do if I did not go see a movie at the movie theater, if I stayed home or whatever. You go out Friday and Saturday, try to, the local Blockbuster or wherever you go to rent your movies back in the day, and you'd have a weekend fun of movies, So I forgot what a big part of our life that was. But, getting back to Scrooge, just to let people know, the film itself was released November 23rd, 1988. So again, right around Thanksgiving time, and again, I myself watched the film to kind of, prepare for the show today, because it had been a number of years since I watched it, and I forgot what a great film it was myself. I mean, I think what I enjoyed the most about it is people may not realize that it's kind of based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but what I dug about Scrooged, it was not like a carbon copy of a novel or a book. I mean, they took some liberties and they had some fun with it. And I think that's what made it so fun.
Yes, and just another version of
a classic
Christmas Carol. It was time.
Yeah.
That by the time they had come out with that movie, it was really, it was a right time for, that type of an approach. And what I mean by that is they took the approach of making it, tie into the times and having a more grittier, and some things that people would consider not family friendly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a tone that was going on in the movie that, up to that point, before the 80s, Hollywood movie studios was trying to control what you liked.
Oh, sure.
Trying to control, and so everything had a veneer on it, and everything was like
family friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so everything was, they always wanted to portray, the family as the perfect family, and think of Ozzie and Harriet.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This whole thing. So by the time Scrooge came out, it was so much grittier, and it had so many more elements, raw, which you would call raw elements. It was the perfect timing for it, even though that was the reason why the critics really didn't jump on board, because the critics were basically I was checking it out, and they were basically complaining that it didn't have the veneer, and it didn't it wasn't part of what was the norm that was being churned out by Hollywood. And but if you notice that it wasn't long after they came out with Scrooged that other gritty things started coming out, like The Simpsons and Married with Children, and other things. So it was kind of a movie like Scrooge, a comedy like that, to actually make people realize that, hey, this is an actual comedy avenue that the American public is actually hungry for.
Yeah, I mean, we talked, the last episode we did was on Christmas Vacation, starring Chevy Chase, and of course, that was the third installment of those vacation movies, and so, that character and that family was kind of already established, but it was along the same lines as that, Clark Griswold, Chevy Chase's character, lovable goofball dad, always kind of getting in these, this mayhem, these crazy moments of fun or whatever. But he was a type too, as lovable and goofball-y as he was. He didn't really give a f what anybody thought of him. He was just, I am who I am, and I'm, kind of like Popeye. I am what I am, and I'm proud of what I am, and that's what I am, And so
it was a really ripe time for that type of a change. Getting into the more raw elements of society. And then,
again, just kind of some thoughts I wrote down about the film is kind of just give people an idea of what we're talking about. Scrooged is a 1988 American Christmas comedy film starring Bill Murray as TV executive Frank Cross, whose character, Frank Cross, is a modern-day Scrooge, and the entire film is based on the 1843 novel A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, of course. Scrooged is a modern-day spoof on the Christmas classic, and much like in A Christmas Carol, Bill Murray's character is visited by 3 different ghosts in the film to help him get his Christmas spirit back. Now, again, I was reading some things where it said, like you, that a lot of critics at the time panned the film. They did not like it for the simple fact they thought it was too mean-spirited. They thought Bill Murray's character was really evil, too mean. And I think those critics and those people that had that opinion, they're kind of missing the whole point of the film here.
Totally missing the point.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, when you're looking back at it, it's easy to see.
Yeah. And then again, kind of just to go along with what we were just saying, before they actually put the film in theaters, they have what's called test audiences, and it said test audiences loved the film, but once the film was released in theaters everywhere, it received mixed reviews. Many critics felt the film was both too mean-spirited and too sentimental as well. I don't know how you can have both, but okay, And then here's another funny thing, because another episode we did earlier this year, when we started doing these holiday-themed shows, was we did a show on Beetlejuice, and I'm bringing that up because it said Scrooge was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Makeup, but it was Beetlejuice who received the Academy Award for Best Makeup in 1988 instead of Scrooged.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, Beetlejuice was an incredible piece of work, and I think Beetlejuice was the first work that was put out by Tim Burton.
Oh, sure, yeah. And see, I think that's a lot more deserving. And another reason I think people that pan this film or have any criticism, I think there are people out there, but I'll say they're kind of snobbish. And what I mean by that is, like, if they were to put out a traditional version and call it Scrooge, but maybe more in lines of what we've come to think of the Christmas Carol, and it's carbon copy of what of what the book is. Oh, that's more intellectual. It's all right to go see. A lot of people probably don't like the idea. Bill Murray, they're making a classic into a comedy. Oh, how dare they?
Well, those critics can always watch their version that they like on the Hallmark
I'm with you.
Channel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the Hallmark Channel is exactly what they're describing. Everything is perfect and everything has a veneer, and you know what I mean? It's portraying everything as perfect. It was, up until the 80s, that's what America was being fed for entertainment. Yeah. It really was, and the 80s was the time that it was a pivotal time, where popularity of movies were showing, the popularity was the showing of the dirty and the ugly side. Just like, what was that? The one that we did for Thanksgiving.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Del Griffith's character, and that is a gritty, showing the dirty, ugly side of our society, and I don't think that Hollywood really understood, that America, was like over ready for stuff that didn't have a veneer on it and was all perfect and everything like that.
That's why
I really don't think that Hollywood, the people in Hollywood really, understood that. But it's trailblazers like, the Saturday Night Live alumni that were making movies back in those days, because, if you look at a lot of these movies that were, portraying the beautiful comedy that can come out of, the ugly and dirty side of our society, was really championed by those people that came from Saturday Night Live. You look at Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, John Candy.
Oh, sure.
You look at this movie, Bill Murray. You look at Christmas Vacation. Yeah. It's Chevy Chase. It's like all of that the alumni from that show really championed the birth of that, the dirty and ugly side of society. There is wonderful comedy that can be derived from that.
Yeah, I do think eventually down the line, that's another thing I want to do an episode on, is Saturday Night Live. I want to kind of compare the classic era that you're kind of talking about, which is from a time when you and I were growing up, into what it has turned into now. I'm not such a huge fan of what they're doing now, but obviously there's still an audience for it. But
That is an absolutely fantastic idea.
Yeah, and the other thing with this is, another thing they started doing in the 1980s was you start seeing these films where maybe there would be a big proclamation about like a star making a cameo in these films, but you wouldn't even know until you went to see the film that somebody was making like a special 5-minute appearance or something like that. Now, did you watch the film Scrooge recently in preparing for today's episode?
Actually, I had to save it because it's a tradition for me that I watch it on Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
Both that and It's a Wonderful Life. That's always been a tradition of mine, that those those are on when I'm, wrapping presents and doing all that under the tree. When the kids were growing up and everything, it was every Christmas, those two movies.
Now let me ask you: is there any certain order you got to watch them in?
No, I don't. Usually I think it's a Wonderful Life first.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
I mean? Yeah, but I don't think that it was a conscious, a planned thing. Where I always prefer. You know what I mean? I think it just,
I think even just chronologically, like, okay, this came first, and then you kind of watch something like It's a Wonderful Life, being black and white and everything, and you can even kind of tell it's dated, and okay, this was made way back then compared to Scrooge even in 1988, and you're like, oh, this is color, look how different this film looks. And anyways, why I'm bringing up the cameo is I don't know if you noticed, you may have forgotten this, but do you notice before Bill Murray even comes on the screen, like last night when I put the DVD in my DVD player, this famous actor comes on the screen before even Bill Murray does. Do you know who I'm talking about?
What's this? The $1 million, $10 million man.
Yes, Lee Majors.
Yeah, Lee Majors. Boy, back in the 80s, Lee Majors was
the
huge.
Fall Guy. I mean, first the $6 million man, and then the Fall Guy, like in the 80s. Yeah, when I didn't even know Lee Majors was in this, and I mean, he makes a small little appearance, but it's a fun appearance because it's like, even when I seen the film the first time, like, wow, that's taking me back. That's a $6 million man, and you realize, I mean, as I'm watching it last night, realizing, okay, that's Lee Majors. I'm like, wow, that's, he's almost like 80 or 90 years old now. I mean, he's long past retirement, and yet he's still alive and kicking. And you think, oh wow, that really takes me back.
Well, I think that's another beauty of the movie in itself is all the cameo appearances in the movie by all these actors are just.
I mean, another one is
just phenomenal performances.
Sure.
I mean, everyone that did a cameo did such a great portrayal of their characters.
I mean, John Forsythe from the voice of Charlie's Angel and later on Dynasty, was another one. And then he's long gone, but I thought, wow, that's taking me back too.
Yes, I mean, Carol Kane.
Oh, sure.
Her character is one of my favorites in the movie because it's just so, everything that she was doing was so unfairy-like.
Oh yeah.
The opposite of what you would expect.
Oh, I was trying to think when I was watching. I'm like, okay, I recognize this person I've seen somewhere before, and then now you said the name. That's the one that played Andy Kaufman's wife on Taxi. Laka Travis. Yeah, yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
That's where she got her start. It was as Andy Kaufman's character's wife. Yes.
Yeah. I thought I was driving me crazy last night. I know I've seen her on TV. Who the hell is that? And then you brought me back. Yeah, Taxi. That's where I first seen her.
Yes, her portrayal of that fairy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I feel she upstaged Bill Murray
in a way.
in that scene.
I mean,
and that's very hard to do because Bill Murray is a person that upstages.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he overwhelms scenes. But yeah, in that one, that exchange between him and her, I think honestly, I really do feel that she upstaged him, and her portrayal of that character was absolutely phenomenal. And when I was doing some backtracking research and stuff, I found that she had like some serious difficulty pulling off that character. It was affecting her emotionally, where she would have to take breaks and go have a 15-20 minute cry. So it was really affecting her, really affecting her to the point where it was immobilizing her. But you would never tell from what you saw on the screen, because what you saw on the screen in that scene is a absolutely iconic, priceless scene.
Yeah, because it was almost like I was kind of thinking to myself, it's almost like the annoying singing good fairy. I don't know how you want to term it, but also kind of that voice. So I could see, like, when they're filming it, maybe after a while, even to you who's a performer, the voice would start to get a little annoying. And then you're around these other actors that are on the set, and probably a lot of them couldn't help but laugh. But she was so good at what she was doing,
Man, he actually wanted her to take the violence that she was doing in the scene, and he wanted her to make that real.
Wow.
And so he actually pushed her. When she punched him, she actually punched him because that was under his orders.
Wow.
When she pulled that lip, she actually injured him when she pulled his lip in that scene. He actually had to take a couple of days off so his lip could heal.
Wow. And the other thing I don't know if you're aware of is, I think Scrooged was the first film in Bill Murray's career where he was actually the one in the leading role. It was a Bill Murray, film. In other words, I was reading a lot of the stuff he's done throughout his career has been like as part of an ensemble cast, such as like Ghostbusters, for example. And I was reading, because of his success with the first Ghostbusters film, when this came out in 1988, they were like, as far as the marketing for this film, they were kind of going off of the success, Bill Murray, formerly of from Ghostbusters, now is in his own leading role. And he said that once the film came out, he was kind of nervous about the fact that this was a leading role for him. He's like, I prefer being part of an ensemble cast. I felt like the pressure was all on me, and it made him a little nervous.
Well, and the pressure was all on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you're part of an ensemble cast, there isn't one person to point the finger.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an ensemble. But when it's a lead character, as the thing holding the whole thing up, that pressure is on you.
Yeah.
It's that pressure can be, for you and I, we don't really think about it, but when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars and all of these people that are involved in the project, and it's just like it's a lot riding on your own shoulders, and I would I'd be really kind of scared to be put in that kind of a position, where if feeling that kind of pressure for the success, because whenever I'm doing a show, because I'm the main guy
the lead singer.
Well, no, not just that. I'm the person behind the scenes making sure that everybody knows about the show and making sure that venue is packed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that same kind of pressure is on a band when you're playing at a venue, because say you're playing at a 1,200 venue and only 300 people show up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same kind of pressure.
And let me ask you, because
I mean? And I do feel that pressure. I haven't had something like that happen to me yet. I have to say yet, because you can never say that something like that could never happen to you. But every show that I do, because I'm the person that's actually putting on the show, I'm the person that booked it with Live Nation. Live Nation is looking at me. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
It is, I am the person responsible, and I definitely do everything humanly possible to make sure that place is packed. But every show, there on the actual day of the show, just before the doors open and the place is just starting to fill up, there's that anxiety of that pressure that you don't know whether it's going to be a successful show or not.
Yeah, and to top it off, as far as you being the front man as well, I mean, you got the rest of the band to kind of back you up, but there is an aspect of what you do, Gar, whereas if the drummer's kind of a little offbeat, maybe the audience is not going to notice as much, but if you sing a sour note or you're a little off that day, because they're listening to your singing, and that's the main thing that everyone's listening to, they notice that right away.
Well, but what I was more talking about.
Oh, I get you. Yeah.
The relationship. My relationship with, say for example, Live Nation.
I got you. Yeah.
Is just like Bill Murray's relationship with the major studios, and that pressure that he feels is the same kind of pressure that I feel whenever I'm doing a show. Because when there's a lot riding on it.
And talking about business, the business aspect of the movie was put out by Paramount Studios, which I bring that up because now most time when you bring up Paramount Studios, they got a great catalog of films, but probably right away, the first thing you think of when you hear Paramount Studios is Star Trek. But then you see something like this, okay, they can do all kinds of stuff. They could do Star Trek, they could do comedy, they can do a little bit of everything.
Well, they were looking for this movie to be a big blockbuster, just like Ghostbusters. Yeah,
and what's funny about everything we've said so far is, as much as people and the critics may have panned the film, it's too mean-spirited, it's this, it's that. The funny thing is, so often, like we say in these shows, Gar, a lot of times I think the fans, the audience knows a little something more than the critics, and you just look at any film like this, through the passage of time or whatever. And what I mean is, like, since Scrooged was released, it has become a regular feature on television every Christmas. And while critics continue to point out that the film is an alternative to traditional Christmas entertainment, for people who really love the film way back then in 1988, it shows you that Scrooge was a film that was really way before its time. I mean, I think up until 1988, nobody would have ever thought to kind of do a comedic spoof on the classic A Christmas Carol. It's just too daring,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's because if it's a rocky road of doing something like that. It's like, you got people on this side over here saying, it's a great idea. You got the people on the other side of the road saying, you can't it's sacrilegious. We're talking about the Christmas Carol, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't mess with that.
Don't mess with the classic.
Well, yeah, and that's you're walking down a road where on each side people are yelling those things to you. You know what I mean? So, but it definitely was, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And, because there have been so many episodes that we have done of this time machine, and I have said so many times that the critics really
don't have a clue.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because as we sit here, like I was watching Scrooge last night, and because we were going to be doing the show today, so I wanted to kind of be prepared. But I will tell you, talking about Christmas tradition, this time of year, around Thanksgiving time till the end of the year, I'm usually pulling out my Christmas DVDs, and I'm talking about everything from It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, Christmas Vacation, Scrooge. These films, I automatically think of them. They're my tradition every year. And I'm glad to have a huge DVD collection where I can do that. Some people, though, they play some of these films every year around Christmas time, and that's what people look forward to. It is and it's funny that maybe when this film came out in 1988, nobody had an idea it would become part of our Christmas tradition. But 34 years later, this film means something to people.
Yes, and if it wasn't a great movie, it would not have stayed popular for this long. It's because the movie has become iconic. But I think you probably came across it like I did. Because we always do this, refresh, to prepare for the show. But Bill Murray did not work well with the director of the movie. They didn't see eye to eye, and the writers that actually wrote the script. You see, going back to the beginning. We were originally talking about how Bill got involved in the project, and basically he got involved in the project while he was in a 4-year retirement. He had not made a movie or done
since
anything.
Ghostbusters.
Since Ghostbusters, and took 4 years off, and 2 years into that retirement, two writers that used to write for Saturday Night Live approached him about this, Scrooged, and so he checked out the script, and he didn't like, what they, and so he actually worked with them on the script.
And
then they came up with the script. But by the time the movie got into production, and they had a director, the director's vision was not the same vision that Bill Murray and the writers had with the story, because Bill Murray and the writers had much more envisioned Bill Murray's character similar to the character in Groundhog Day, where in Groundhog Day you don't hear him yelling. He's yelling all the time in Ghostbusters, in Scrooged, and what they had envisioned for his character was a much more subtle comedy, much more akin to what they were doing in Groundhog Day. And so there was a serious clash between Bill Murray and the writers, that group against the director, and there basically the head writer was saying that what finally made it to the screen had very little to do with the original script that they had written.
Yeah, and again, I think what makes this work is the fact that we all know it's based on, the classic A Christmas Carol. It's kind of taken it to an extreme farce. But another aspect I think that makes the film work is while it is, the film is called Scrooged, and it is based on A Christmas Carol, I like the fact they don't make Bill Murray Ebenezer Scrooge. They give him a different name, Frank Cross. And so there's maybe not in Bill Murray's frame of mind. There's not as much pressure to kind of live up to what the traditional thought of who Ebenezer Scrooge is. He can kind of create his own character, and you see his kind of transformation from major jerk to lovable, wonderful, friendly guy by the end of the film. And again, the main plot of the film is that Bill Murray's character, Frank Cross, who is a greedy, selfish tyrant of a boss, who decided to broadcast a live, extravagant, televised broadcast of the Christmas Carol on live TV on Christmas Eve, and he makes all his employees work through the holidays instead of allowing them to spend time with their families. And of course, he wants to have a live event of a Christmas Carol. They're calling it Scrooge, and that's how they get the name for the movie. But as the film is airing, he goes through all these things and all these experiences, gets the visits from the three ghosts, and he starts to kind of transform, and he sees kind of various ways. But I think one thing I really loved about Scrooge was kind of when the ghost first appears, first ghost, and you see the taxi cab come and get him and take him on his little time travel. I thought that was a cool part of the film.
Well, and then the guy that played the taxi driver.
Yeah.
David Johansen, ex New York Dolls,
Wow.
and ex Buster Poindexter.
Okay.
Do you remember Buster Poindexter?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
That was, I think it was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
He had, nowadays people are doing pompadours like that.
Yeah.
But back in the 80s, nobody had done a pompadour that had, see, all the 80s hair bands had hair, had the hair reaching for the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so, David Johansen, when he came up with that musical act, Buster Poindexter, he had a pompadour that was reaching for the ceiling. It was giant, right?
Yeah.
And his big hit was that song "Hot, Hot, Hot."
Yeah. And then
he did that. He's a musician that transferred over to acting, and it's worked out wonderful. He's a very good actor, and I love that character that he did as the taxi driver in this movie.
And it's funny you bring that up because even watching the film last night, I wasn't aware. Okay, that was Buster, but I know exactly who you're talking about. And it's funny that we watch these old films and people like that make an appearance in the film, and you realize around this time he was very popular at the time, not so much anymore, and almost to the point where you forget it. You forget he's even around or was ever around, and it's like a reminder. Yeah, he was popular back then, this guy.
Yeah, he did such a great job with that character. I heard that they were planning on Sam Kinison, playing that part, but and no knock on Sam Kinison, because I love Sam Kinison, but I my heart goes with David Johansen.
Oh,
with
sure.
That part.
Oh, sure. And another reason you were kind of talking about fact that Bill Murray didn't get along real well with the director, and I was reading part of that is because Bill Murray ad-libbed many of his lines throughout the entire film, and the director did not really like that. He's like, hey, you should follow along with the script. And Bill Murray's point of view was, hey, I'm the star of the film. I'm going to do the character my way.
Well, I don't think that the studios were hiring an actor to follow. They were actually hiring Bill Murray to do what Bill Murray does.
Yeah. And again, just kind of talking about what the plot of the film was, like we did at the beginning of the episode. Bill Murray has been on record as saying that he really enjoyed playing Frank Cross, the meanest man in the world, and transforming into a decent person by the film's end. I mean, another thing you kind of realize throughout the film is he's got a younger brother, but they're not really close, or maybe at one point in life they were, and they've kind of, they still see each other from time to time, but they're not as close as because the character Frank Cross, I mean, he is kind of an Ebenezer Scrooge type, but his whole, I guess, point in life was being successful, making money, and he forgot about kind of what's really important. By the end of the film, you see the scene where he thinks that his brother has died. They're putting a coffin into the flames, and he realizes, oh no, wait, that's me. And then he kind of realizes what is really important in life. He starts thinking, and he goes to the point of getting his brother, or his brother sends him a picture like when the two of them were younger, and he's like, yeah, this is what's important in life.
Well, did you know that the person that played his brother in the movie is Bill Murray's brother?
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, his name is John Murray.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I had no idea. And so again, Bill Murray enjoyed the fact that he's playing the meanest man in the world, supposedly Frank Cross, and by the film's end, he turns him into a decent person, and that was kind of the whole point of the movie. So I guess in Bill Murray's mind, it was like mission accomplished.
Yeah.
And then another thing I gotta just say for a minute, Gar. It's funny, but as funny as the film was, I agree with you. I think my favorite part of the movie is just as the credits are starting to roll, and Bill Murray is kind of, at first he comes on screen, and the guy that's producing the big extravaganza, he's like, what the hell's going on with him? Okay, yeah, he's going to be fired, he's going Frank Cross is going to be fired, and then he just has this transformation, and everybody falls. I mean, right as the credits start to roll, I love the fact that it almost becomes a song and dance scene. Everybody starts singing along, and that's how the film ends.
I didn't really know it, but that was a serious leap of faith that Bill Murray did in doing the scene that way.
Mm-hmm.
They really took a serious chance in ending the movie that way.
Yeah.
And there were, when the director actually didn't like it. And when the whole thing was done, when he did that, and most of it was ad-lib.
Yeah.
When the scene was finished, the crew and cast actually stopped and applauded Bill Murray. They thought that he just did it so wonderfully.
Oh, sure.
And the director jumped up out of his chair and started yelling, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah.
And, the director thought that it was horrible.
Yeah.
And obviously, the director didn't get his way.
Yeah.
Because they kept it. But yeah, the director was against the scene. He didn't like it. He voiced that he didn't like it right after the applause. Right after the applause, he did that.
You ask any.
He took a huge risk in ending the movie that way.
Yeah.
But what was it that I said that really was a big part of it when we started this whole episode?
The final scene. Yeah, and I agree. I dare say you ask anybody, and as great as the rest of the film is, I think I can tell you last night when I was done watching the film, that was the scene that kind of stuck in my mind the most. I don't know. Maybe it's just the singing.
You even want to see, every time I watch the movie and
sing along.
I want to sing along.
Yeah, exactly. You start very much like when we did our episode on American Graffiti. I forget what the song is that starts playing. It's a Bob Dylan song, but like a Rolling Stone or something like that. And I just can't. I mean, I was singing right along, and then I was letting it roll to the very end. And sometimes, that's what makes a film. I mean, when you have a scene like that and you just want to kind of sing along, and it's funny, you watch a whole movie, and that's what stood out to me too.
Well, and he's doing those ad libs,
yeah.
Getting okay, all the guys on the right side,
and the other,
and he's doing that whole thing. It's so
fun.
so funny, but yet heartwarming at the same time.
See, and I like I said often before in many of these episodes, I love to go see great comedies. I mean, like anybody, you go and have a hard day at work, or you want to just go see a great movie on the weekend or something, and you need a vehicle to give you a good laugh. I mean, that's what a great film like this does, and that's why I love the fact that they made a comedic spoof off of A Christmas Carol, because as much as I love the classics, I mean, I love to laugh, and definitely this had plenty of laughter for me.
Well, it's a great. I get choked up every time
You see that, yeah.
when the little boy tugs on his pant legs and says, and God bless everyone. I get choked up every time.
And besides,
I see that.
And besides, his,
it's just there's so many great
moments,
cameo performances by the other actors in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just I love everything about it. I love the grittiness. I even love the parts that the critics complained about.
Oh, sure.
If it didn't have those elements, the movie wouldn't be as good.
Oh, sure. And a couple other things before you wrap up today's episode. Now, another thing I picked up on in regards to his brother, and it kind of makes you realize 1988, what was around in the world then. No reference, obviously, because this is way before they ever had DVDs or Blu-rays. This is the age of videotapes, video cassettes, and VHS. In fact, there's a reference to giving his brother a VHS machine as a gift. And so I kind of picked up on that. And then there was a part about his girlfriend that he didn't really appreciate, hadn't seen in years, and then she comes back in his life. And by the time the film ends, you get the feeling that he's finally sees her for the wonderful person that she is and what he's missing out on all these years. And the film ends with you thinking, okay, maybe they're going to get married. Maybe they're going to, get a lot closer than they've been in years. So that was a great way, too, to end the film. But also, as we like to do, Gar, in these episodes, we like to look at what was going on in the world. And here's a fun fact for you. February 6th in 1988, Michael Jordan made his signature slam dunk for the very first time from a free-throw line, which inspired his Air Jordan company.
Absolutely, and that picture is iconic today.
Yeah, in fact,
picture of him doing that slam dunk.
In fact, that's why they call him Air Jordan. And if he'd never done that, other popular films that are around in 1988, Land Before Time, Oliver and Company, Rain Man. Now that was one I think we got. That was a real fun film. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Coming to America. Now here's a couple fun facts too. As far as technology, the first computer virus, which was known as Brain, infected 52-inch floppy disks. Now we know what the internet and computers are today, but do you remember when you used to have floppy disk?
Oh yes.
I mean that's really going back in time. and some other fun technology that I don't know if you when it was first coming around, like in 1988, when we first started hearing about LASIK, laser eye surgery. I mean, that's how far back that goes.
Wow, I don't think that I would trust.
Yeah.
the version of LASIK that was available back then compared to
now.
What's available now.
But that's just
advancements over
sure.
that much time. But everything has to have its birth and
sure.
its inception. And that's pretty crazy to think that LASIK is been around that long.
34 years, yeah. And as we sometimes do, talking about fashion, what was popular in 1988. I don't know if you're aware, but that's when a lot of people started wearing those Hawaiian shirts. You see people in leather jackets, and I was reading like in 1988. That's when you start seeing shows on TV like Full House, and John Stamos' Uncle Jesse being in his leather coats, and people started watching that and wearing leather coats because Uncle Jesse was, and you'd have people start wearing ripped jeans. I mean, ripped jeans, you still see people wearing those today,
Well, back back in the 80s, I used to love to watch that show, Charles in Charge.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that was around the same time, too.
Yeah, Charles in Charge, yeah, and his goofy buddy Limbeck, yeah.
Buddy Limbeck.
Yeah.
Buddy Limbeck was hilarious.
Oh, sure, he was part of the reason I tuned in.
Nobody remembers Buddy Limbeck now.
But yeah.
He was the funny character on that show.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost how, like, if you watch that show back in the day, Family Matters, I mean, Steve Urkel was, he made a guest appearance, was supposed to be on the show one time, and he was a breakout star. Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, a few more fun facts before you wrap this up. One thing they did on, you remember the show Facts of Life, that was very popular, the show with Mrs. Garrett and the girls, that went to the school, all-girls school. And they had a special episode which was very controversial for its time where one of the girls ended up being Natalie, lost her virginity. And they had to put a warning before the episode, parental warning and stuff like that. And typically, I guess what they originally wanted to do with that episode, they wanted Blair to be the one, kind of a pretty party girl. It was going to be the first one to lose her virginity. But the actress that played Blair, she was really heavy into Christianity, and she said, that's against my religion. So that's how come they had to pick somebody else, one of the other girls, to do it. But, they from time to time, you'd see TV shows like do these special controversial episodes. They had to put these warnings before the shows, which you don't see too much of anymore.
Well, at the same time, there was the labels that were being forced to put on albums by bands, parental advisory warnings.
They had what was called
on the albums, but the funny thing is what they were trying to achieve actually backfired, because all kids did was, when they went into the record store, now they're looking for the albums with the parental warning stickers on them.
And the funny thing is, while they had the warning stickers on those records, like you said, the kids and the teenagers wanted those records even more, and it never got to the point where kids could not buy those records. They even had what was called the Filthy 15, where you'd have bands like Wasp and Judas Priest and Twisted Sister. Like the senators and their wives wanted to ban all these albums, but they were never able to get it that far where they made it illegal for teenagers to buy certain records. So thank God for that. But
it backfired, and it actually increased their record sales.
And Gar, before we wrap up this episode, the very last thing I want to discuss, because, usually you and me do such a great job of researching this stuff, and we're prepared every episode. And the last episode we did on Christmas Vacation was one of my favorites. I mean, I believe each episode we do gets better, but I cannot believe that. I guess we just had so much to talk about. I was like, how the hell did we forget to mention Clark Griswold kind of being horny at that girl that's throughout the film, if you know what I mean. I'm like, that's the one thing. I mean, that was some of the best scenes in the film where, his wife catches him naked in the pool with this girl that he's been kind of following on the road trip and keeps running into, and I'm like, how the hell did we forget to mention that?
That is iconic too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a huge part of the appeal of the movie, was those little scenes.
Yeah. And another thing I've had fun doing these episodes and these shows with you, Gar, is along the way we've both developed, especially you, a vocabulary. I love some of the vocabulary that you've kind of created that continue, like words such as trailblazers, visionaries, trippy. I think in Christmas Vacation you came up with one, wild card characters. And, in fact, in advertising one of the episodes we were doing one day on our Facebook page, you did a little word thing where you're saying, well, we want to welcome everybody to everybody's, favorite pop culture playground. That, without even trying to, you created kind of the catchphrase for this show we do now.
But that's not a preconceived. It's just how I talk.
No, but it's fun.
It really is.
But what I'm saying is, it is fun that along the way, without even trying to. That's part of what I've enjoyed about this show with you. Things kind of get created without even trying to. Where a lot of you hear a lot of stuff on the radio or TV, and they'll come up with a catchphrase, for example. But they have the so-called experts. They're in a little room together trying to come up. And just through talking is what I'm saying, without even trying, and that's what I've loved. And in fact, when we first started doing this, and when I listened back to some of the past episodes, I guess you get better with the more you do anything. But like I started listening back, and I'd even noticing some of the first couple episodes where, without even meaning to, I was doing like every couple words would be and I tell myself, you got to not do that so much, or I catch myself even in listening back to some of these past shows, and it's funny that you're not even aware you do it. Like, I will catch myself every so often, because I have a tendency, one thing I say a lot is, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. And I'm like, okay, you got to come up with new phrasing,
I'm sure I have mine, that I do like that.
But it's fun. It's fun, yeah.
Get a little redundant too,
But it's what makes it fun is it is totally unscripted, except for we do research, and I can tell you, I write down stuff so that I want to remember to say. Because you can't remember everything if you don't do that. And I want to have what date it came out and what time. So we look like we know what we're talking about. And it's really been fun. And I want to wish Gar a very Merry Christmas and holiday season. Christmas is like just next week. We will be returning in 2023. And the first episode we're going to do in January, it was at the suggestion of my good friend Gar here, is we're going to do an episode on I Love Lucy.
Oh man, I'm so that is a very, very big part of my childhood.
Yeah. Going back to the 50s, and I got to tell people, we're not going to ruin the surprise, but as you and I were talking earlier, Gar, the first episode we're going to do in the new year is it's going to be a 2-part episode, and we're going to call it the We Love Lucy episode, because part 1 is going to definitely be on I Love Lucy, but then part 2 we're going to save that for a surprise, but it's going to also have to do with Lucile Ball, and it'll be fun.
Yes, and there's just no way for this podcast show that we're doing to run out of
topics.
Topics. It's impossible to run out of topics. But but every time it's like, oh my gosh, that is such a great idea.
Yeah, and just talking.
You know what I mean? They're all great ideas.
Yeah, and before we go today, I want to ask you, because this is an idea that just kind of popped in my head today before we did this show. What do you think about doing an episode on iconic movie posters, because I think a big part of movie going experience is especially people that used to go to love to go to theaters. I know, I still do. First thing you do when you walk in a movie theater, you look at all the movie posters, and it's a big part of us deciding what we want to go see next.
Well, advertising has a lot to do with the success of whatever it is, that you're selling, whether it be a movie or this or that. And, advertising is a big part of it. Yeah. But there's some movies, that I have discovered that are just phenomenal movies that don't follow the normal script.
Oh, sure.
And are not heavily advertised, and those movies kind of gain their success through cult
or word of mouth
avenues and stuff. Say I'm bringing up Office Space again.
Yeah.
That's when that movie came out, I passed on it so many times.
Wow.
So many times, and then many years after it had already been out, my daughter asked me if I had ever seen that movie, and I told her the same thing I'm saying right now. now. The name of the movie never really did anything, and the advertisement for it really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Dad, you have to see that movie. You have to see it." And I'm so glad I took her advice, because there are some movies that can become successful without advertising and kind of just becoming viral on their own.
Oh, sure. And I'll give the final word to you today, Gar, which I want to end on this. Okay, obviously we're going to be doing I Love Lucy next time, but in the new year, I was curious, off the top of your head, is there something else you would love to do an episode on?
Oh gosh, you just put me on the spot right now. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but I guarantee I could come up with a good one. Okay,
well, I'll leave that for you to think about, and maybe we can discuss that on the next episode. So you have a very Merry Christmas, my friend, and this will be going up next weekend, or just in time for the holidays. And what a way to end the year, huh?
Yes, thank you, Jason. I wishing you and all your family and everyone you love, a wonderful Christmas and a happy, healthy
New Year.
New Year, and to everyone that
listens to this,
just please, the most heartfelt, warm Christmas wishes. I definitely want to extend all of that to everyone that enjoys listening to this.
Oh, yes, we love you all and appreciate you checking out everything we do every time we post a new episode. And Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll be seeing you again in the new year. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.